Hello there. Hello. I'll put this over here for now. Hold on. Hello. Hi there. We're a couple minutes early. We're a minute early. I'm Clifford Bates, and this is the messing around on a Friday. So we'll see who's coming. I don't think anyone comes anymore. Oh my God. I don't know. No, oh my God. Ah! Oh, I see one person. Yay, one person. Good. We're starting at a couple minutes, so 2 minutes. California. Hi, California. So it's like, oh my God, it's like they're at 4 in the morning, right? No, 4 in the morning. It's about it's noon in the East Coast. It is about 3 hours later, so it's around 9. No, not 3 hours. Yeah, 9. Not 9 in the morning. Good morning. Good evening, my California people. I know this is just getting there. It's starting. Hello, San Francisco. Yes. Uh, Good morning. We're starting out, and I said I'm doing it today. Yes, this is the live stream. Okay, there's no schedule. So let me just tell me what I'm doing. Well, what I'm doing. Um, this week I made some videos. I've been doing my Schmidt with two things. I've been doing Schmidt and Schmidt, the parliamentary thing. Doing some videos on these, getting up ahead, getting us some videos. And then the other set on this is Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Monday, Wednesdays. I've been doing Rousseau social contract. I've been having some problems with this because the recording kind of had a problem with it. We had to do some. I get interrupted. It's taking longer than I did. I had to restructure the numbers because of how things are going. But we're going progress on this. So therefore, this is what I've been doing in terms of that. My writing and research. I've been teaching my class. And I'm kind of annoyed at my class in America. I'm an advanced student. I'm a student for an advanced course on doing Europe, and he's missing this week. And I'm like, well, you should be posted. You should post stuff. You haven't, you didn't post anything yet. Didn't do any posts. It's like, okay, you need to be active. So I felt like, I was like annoyed. Like this is my European politics course. So it's like I'm reading all this stuff in European politics and things I know this stuff already, but it's frustrating when I study European politics because the problem with the European politics stuff is that it assumes a lot of stuff that simply ain't. This book is a better book, I think. These two books I'm reading for the course that have to be assigned for the course. This book is more kind of, it understands it, comparison. It divides it in terms of divisions of things, like it gives introductions to this historic development of Europe, right? And then the transformation into the European, this idea of this thing, they call it the multi-levels. And it understands, it's treating the EU as a political structure, but it's not. It's both is and is not. And therefore it starts treating it as the EU. This book operates as though the EU is a unified political system in a way that it's not. And therefore, it has the problem of that. It has the contradiction. It's like the tempted of taking an American government textbook and making it for the European, right? So therefore, it's more complicated. It's the multi-level Europe about the judicial part. This idea of the multi-level Europe in this textbook is very frustrating in that sense. Um, uh, and then talks about the parliamentary governments, the question of government, a multi-level, and the parliamentarianism, what does parliament means and parliament operates at the different levels. Then 6 and 7. 6 is judicial power, and then political parties. Again, this is a classic American government textbook. We talk about, well, first of all, but the national government, the government, federal system, right? The government history of the thing is, typically. This is like if you take an American government textbook and then applied it to the EU. And this is both a good, I mean, I understand what they're trying to do, but it's problematic in that sense. This is why it's kind of very frustrating to teach because, I mean, the old way we teach comparative politics would be state by state by state by state. And that's true because in many ways the EU is not a normal thing. This book is better because it is country by country. See, this book is all about systemic, as you do it systemically in terms of division of power, division of the Congress, the parliamentary, executive, and okay, but that's a messy approach in that sense. But I mean, Blair, okay, let's not jump on Blair right now. I have to finish this. This book is country by country. This is more a classic comparative politics approach that at the end does, I think it does, it treats the European Union separately. And I think that is a more correct way of doing it. So I look at this and I'm saying I like this better. As I would, if I choose between, I understand why this is being done systemically. Now, the idea about Blair, and I have a problem about Blair. I've always had a weird relationship about Blair. I think Blair is kind of like it's what Thatcher's, to understand Margaret Thatcher is to understand the English problem. The English problem was in 1945. I think in this sense, the 45 settlement of what happened of nationalization and things like this went too far in England. It was kind of in a wrong track. And the mechanism to solve this, the Heath government thought Europeanization was a means to put a brake on and liberalize what was kind of the problem in this long track. But the problem with Heath is if you understand the history of England, is that the Heath reforms. Now, Heath is a conservative, okay? And you have to remember the Wilson government that preceded it was much more radical. And it was facing a complete breakdown of what the conservative governance from Churchill, Eden, and Macmillan did. The complete collapse in faith because of the unwillingness to undo what was done in 45. So therefore, that it was that the conservatives of that period was, well, we're not going to undo the 45 consensus. We're just going to we're going to manage the welfare state. And in this sense, this is a problem. So Thatcher was in a correction, but what was Thatcher? Was she a conservative? I mean, we can always point to the kind of those kind of conservatives of that period. Looking at, they were one nation conservatives. The argument was the idea that they saw this as a union of England, and not this. Well, see, in many ways, Thatcher is a liberal. See, the Liberal Party died, and what is now calls itself the Liberal Democrats are not Liberal Democrats. They're just urban progressives who who are more middle class and more suburban, and are not really part of the labor perception in that sense. So therefore, this is one of the things this is my class I'm teaching on this, and I'm kind of frustrated this week because he's not in class and I'm doing it. So I'm looking at this problem of England and Thatcher. Thatcher is this way. Blair was the reformer, basically the Thatcher of. So therefore, what Thatcher does is abandons traditional conservatism that was conserving the welfare state and fundamentally kind of corrected. Now, I could say maybe she overcorrected in that sense. I think because I ultimately think that she was misled by advisors who sabotaged her, who really wanted to sabotage her. There was a logic. I mean, what happened was at the council level, the left took over the council and were therefore achieving mechanisms through council means, using. So therefore, what she needed to do is to kind of strip the councils. She had a centralized power more than she would have liked to have, but at the same time, she wanted to make sure the things that the council members were doing were fundamentally paid for by the people and therefore they did it by this so-called poll tax, where the idea that instead of it was going to, but that was seen as unfair. Okay, and and the and they insisted on doing it first in Scotland, so she wouldn't do it, and they misreported the findings to her. So when she tried doing this in England, it ended up backfiring and losing support. Now, this was, I think, done to her at a time when she was trying to negotiate the European situation, and she was trying to kind of curtail the European situation. And it's when they turn on her, really, the conservative leadership, who was again always pro-Europe. Churchill was pro-Europe in this sense. This idea, but again, the English are pro-Europe and anti-Europe in a weird way. There's that wonderful Yes Minister clip you can find it about the British position on Europe, and that is the British position on Europe is keeping Europe disunited, and that the best way to keep Europe disunited is being in the European Union. Okay, and I think this is the joke. One of the best ways to understand English party is watch something like the original Yes Minister in that sense. Weirdness of Churchill, who was very weird. No, but it's not. Churchill's position was the consistent European, but he did not. He wanted a United States of Europe in terms of a confederation, but it was going to be led by England. Okay, that's the problem. Is if you have it led by England, but it's not going to be led by England. It's going to be led by Germany and France. And if it's led by Germany and France, the argument was that first of all, you have to remember that Churchill didn't get what he wanted. That the French never wanted England in it. It was de Gaulle who said no originally when it first created, and it was only after the collapse of de Gaulle in the 70s and the fact that the Heath was trying to moderate. In other words, this was the point that the EU was seen as a way to liberalize. No. That's absolutely untrue. I mean, I'm going to disagree with you on Churchill. Churchill did have a great strategic mind. I'm sorry. And I would even argue that Gallipoli was a brilliant strategy. It just was executed poorly because his problem was he was always acting beyond the administrative capacities that was allowed to him in this way. And therefore there is always that weird aspect of this. I hate this. Okay, that was just a stupid comment of something. I have to keep my Norwich email online like this simply because I just do that for my purpose of, so I'm sorry about this. It's in the background and you probably didn't hear that beep, but I heard that beep. Churchill to me is, the best work. Go read, David Starkey's series on Churchill. Churchill's book on what do you call it? How can I say this? Churchill's book on John Churchill, the Duke of Marlborough, is a brilliant book, and he's writing this just before the war. And I think watch David Starkey's scene on Churchill. There's always people. I know a lot of Brits also have the same attitude about. There's kind of people have an attitude about Churchill because he's an imperialist. He's like this. I don't think Churchill gets things wrong too. I think he's too. He really doesn't understand the modern world to the degree that he does it. But back to the English problem. Heath's reforms fucks England up worse than the Labour reforms. Why? It Europeanizes because he does all these reforms: the decimalization of the currency, the destruction of the counties, the centralization of authority, and then the EEC. And by doing it, the other three things are necessary for the normalization and the EEC. Now, the idea of going into the EEC was a way that he could. It's a common thing politicians like doing. See, anything risky of any kind of reform They'd rather be told to the voters that I'm forced to do this. So, in other words, he could blame the reforms on the European Union. In fact, this is the same thing that happened in this part of the world, East Central Europe, that much of the liberalization and things like this, often the argument was we forced to do this because European Union, okay, to get into the market and do these things, okay, this idea. And in fact, we see the same thing in American politics with why the Congress and the legislature liked the Supreme Court interfering, because the argument was, well, we would like to change this policy, but the court won't allow us, okay. This is a classic blame the other guy kind of a strategy that political people like. And I think in many ways, the argument here was that this was a means of liberalization. In fact, we have to understand the early EEC was very much about a liberalization of things. But that changed in 1990. In the 1990s, what happened was the idea that the European bureaucratic elite went from, and that was always the problem. There was two sides of the EEC. There was a liberalizing side and an efficiency side, but there's also a centralizing side. And the centralizing side has uniformity. But the problem with this is it's very hard to get uniformity on situations that don't have agreement. Okay? That, in other words, you don't have political democratic accountability of this. And that there's a fundamental difference that the Anglo-American world, the Anglo world, the English and Irish world, to a great degree, is different than the Germanic and continental world. And even this, the Germanic and Scandinavian world is different from the Latin world. Okay, and that is different from the post-Ottoman world. There are these cultural differences that have impacts on law and aspects. Like, trust me, there's a big difference between common law, English, Anglo-Irish common law. Even though you can say it's Irish country or Catholic, it is still shaped under common law. The difference also massively between England and Scotland. English law is different than Scottish law. English law dominated and shaped Wales and Ireland more than Scotland. Scotland has a different legal system that is more in common with the continent than with England, in a sense. Even though they have the jury trial, it's a hybrid. They hybridized aspects of English law in order to do this. Now, why is I'm talking about this? This is what I'm teaching right now in that sense, and it's driving me kind of birdie. So that's the other thing I'm teaching. So I'm getting ready. I don't know about whether I have BA exams or thesis to review. I'm like, my wife wants to go away for like a week or 7 days, back to her mother for a couple of days, and I have to go with her just to kind of see something. I'm kind of like doing this, and then so therefore I have not set up my. I think I'm gonna have 3 courses, and I'm unsure about one course. Is that master's level course? This is at Warsaw University, my American Studies department. I have my course on. I think it looks like my BA seminar, a pro seminar, which I'll get and that means the BA seminar at the second semester. I know I'm my course on, so therefore the pro seminar. Looks like my Tocqueville class made it for UGAN. I got that permission of this. So I'll get a course on Tocqueville's Democracy in America. Yay! Last year I only had 2 students. I had 4 students, but only 2 ever came to class. This one looks a little better, and we're at a different campus, so therefore that maybe look better. So I have Democracy in America. Yay, Democracy in America. Boom. Well, Democracy in America. I have 2 different democracies in America. I have a lot of democracy in America. So I have the Mansfield translation up there. This is the this translation is this translation, 2 versions of it. One is the paperback, which is 2 cup, the old-fashioned divided environment they're doing, and this is the microprint one. That's the Schmidt, my old Schmidt. My 4-volume. I have a 4-volume set there of the Noah Sherry, which is French English. Up there, I have the 2-volume set with only English. And then I have the one over here, the 1-volume Harvey Mansfield. So, if you say, what are you doing all these different translations? That's what I have. I have 3 classes that I know I'm going to teach. The 4th class is I kind of call it Liberty and Consent course, which I will focus mostly on um, John Locke, and I might do some Montesquieu and some Tocqueville in that, a little more in that sense. And I always do this of that. I kind of get away with European political thought because most American political thought is European. Early American political thought is European. So that the only thing I have to worry now on for setting my courses up on Moodle. I think next week I'll pull the trigger and request the course setups and copy from previous courses that I've dealt with in that. So I designed the courses already. But particularly the other course I'm doing is the Constitution course, where I look line by line of the Constitution and we go through. So that's my teaching things and my preparation. So therefore, that's that. My reading things. What am I reading? Well, one of the things because my friend George Shahansky, who's a civil servant in the Polish government. So he brought a good friend from college, university doctoral studies. So he's been buddy. He and I have been buddy. He also teaches. He's a professor now. He's a habilitant. We went to school together at Northern Illinois, both he and I. So I beat him. He was there a little earlier than I was, and I got my dissertation done before him. His dissertation was on peacekeeping and the failure of peacekeeping, or the criticism of peacekeeping, of limits of peacekeeping. Then he got a job in the Polish ministry during the transition EU, and he's been there as a civil servant, kind of like I call him the Polish Kozhev. I kind of joking with him on that. Well, he has wrote a nice little piece. It's going to be published on Russia as not a civilized nation. And when it gets published, I'm going to post it on my social media and things like this. But because of this, and because of some things I've been reading, I've been doing a lot of, understand the Russia. And I did a lot of, I did the demons. And every time I do a translation, when I read a book of Russian literature, I find the major translations, because you need to. Why? Because the translations differ. And I'm not going to read the Russian. So I've been looking at the different translations. I don't hate Russia. I actually like Russia. I've always liked Russia. There's a limit. It is the problem. The Russian question is, as Gogol Nikolai does, is that the Russian is, what is Russia? Is it Western or not Western? It is both in that sense. Has this fundamental question. It's the fact that it was conquered by the Orient, by the Mongol, the Tartars, not Tartars, but the black Khans and the Tartars in that sense, and was treated as the Khans. And this is something that the great Russian historian Daniel Pipes. No. It's gonna drive me crazy. I want to say Daniel. I don't want to say Daniel. I think it's Daniel is his son. Richard Pipes. That's right. Richard Pipes. The great, he's Polish Jew. Richard Pipes is, but he's the great historian of Russian history and Russian study. And in 1999, he wrote a book called Property and Freedom, when he talks and it gives the English that the experience of England versus the experience of Russia. And I think this is one of the most important books, and he's right about this. The Russians were deformed by the experience by the Tartars, and they never had the Tsar ruled everything kind of like an Oriental despot, and not as a European monarch. And this problem of Russian identity, and this is something even Rousseau in the Social Contract hints up. Russian was Peter the Great, sought to make Russia French, not Russia. In fact, this is the same thing with Catherine. Catherine's capturing of Crimea was done to kind of, because Crimea and that part of that was Greek, that was ancient Greek, and therefore that was still colonies of ancient Greek. And the idea, by conquering Crimea and those areas, they could make claim not only to Orthodox Christianity but to classical Greek as well, the ancients. And therefore, this was going to routinize the foundation Russian claim as being not only the third Rome, but also from orthodoxy's a claim of authority, but also the Orthodox Christian point of view, but also civilizationally in that sense. So therefore, Gogol's Dead Soul is a very important book in this sense to understand this Russian consciousness, and I was just been doing that. Yavin always has a fantasy that Russia will become like France and allied against such. No, that's it. And it is. Yavin is just full of hoo-hoo. I mean, I can't take Kurdish Yavin seriously. He's a math genius. He's a math genius. Wonderful math genius. Wonderful math. Very brilliant, brilliant mind. Granted. But this is where the problem is. He doesn't understand history. He doesn't understand things. And he doesn't understand even evolution and things like this and how structures emerge and structure situations. It's going to be very, you can't get France from Russia. The reason, and this is why you need to read someone like Tocqueville. Not Tocqueville, but Montesquieu. Montesquieu is great about the fourth book. You have to understand why part 6 is so important to this monster book. In my series on Montesquieu, where I go, people say, that book, part 6, was this so torturous? Yes, it is. But that's to understand how the law and how the Germanic tribes and how they shaped it and helped develop France. And the difference between France and Spain and France and Northern Italy shapes the political culture in a way that evolved the state. Whereas that did not happen. Those conditions did not happen. So it's going to be very difficult to get even a France. The geographic terrain, and this is the thing, that the geographic terrain of France does not gives it more security than the geographic terrain of Russia. Russia is always, because of its openness and its terrain and its lack of useful rivers. The rivers are not that useful. They're not friendly. They're not trajectory. There's the mountains that cover. They don't have mountains early. They have mountains really. So therefore, they're vulnerable to a degree that the other things. I'm a little bit dilettante because I come from an English and world lit background. Okay. Everything else is amateur and autodidact for me. Okay? And is chiming in about. And this is the problem about people like Yavin and that. And this is what also my thing with academic agent, which I want to talk about soon. So I've been doing the Russian. The other thing I look is the whole question: are we suffering like Rome? And I decided to go look at. I know my other Livy. I know my Livy very well. I also know Machiavelli pretty well. But I decided to go look at Sallust. The other historian of the Catiline Converge and the early history of the Republic and the transition from that. And I was doing some background reading. I got this a couple weeks ago, and I've been going back and forth, the Catiline conspiracy and the problems of the Jurgentine War and the things like this. So this is a very useful historian that balances out Livy. And then the later one is we then read Tacitus to understand the late empire, right? That's the kind of historical approach to this. This is I'm doing it. The other thing I'm doing, I'm supposed to be reading the Knights, Aristophanes, the Knights. I got it up here, and I also have it the bilingual here. So the Knights this is the Robert Bartlett at Boston College, and his translation of, again, this is perfectly University of California Press. This is marketing demagogues against the demagogues, because everyone is, oh my God, we're gonna, all us Democrats, us nice liberal Democrats are being opposed by these populist demagogues. Oh, Trump, oh my God, ain't that horrible? Well, he does the Knights and the Anarchians in here, and it's a good translation in that sense. And then this is one I don't know. This translation is a fair translation, but I like it because of the Greek. And I'm waiting. It's going to come too late because I start tomorrow, and we're going to be going through the Knights. I'm waiting for my new lobes. The lobes are expensive. Oh my God, they're like almost $40 a pop. It's like, oh God. And this is the translation, the new edition by Jeffrey Herrnson. And he did all of them. So it's a very good thing he did that. Modern, because I had the older translation. I think I had the older translation from the 19 teens, but here's the Greek and here's the new one. So translation is kicked up. It's less. It's more kind of accurate to the reading. The older lobs are kind of like, okay, we don't say those words. It's kind of Victorian, and the translations kind of do things. What was that volume you showed prior to Tacitus? But I didn't have Tacitus. I had the Three Dead Shows. I had Sulla. This one. I didn't have Tacitus. I had Sulla. I talked about Tacitus. I don't have Tacitus. I don't have right here. Hear me. This was the. This one is not Tacitus. This is Against a Demagogue. That's Aristophanes, and this is the same. This is the Greek English version. I'm waiting for the Loeb. It's going to come late. This one, this one. This is Sulla. You're talking about this one. You say that one, right? Thumbs up if you think this is the one I'm talking about. This is a good. It's not a good. It's not all of Sulla's work. It's just a useful British translation of this. Again, this is the Oxford Classics edition. It's a good history of the Catiline conspiracy, the conspiracy that really defined the crisis of the Republic. This is the role Cicero plays in this conspiracy, acts extra-constitutionally to save the Republic against a kind of a Caesar-like character, pre-Caesar, Caesar. Caesar kind of tries to defend Catiline in that sense. The Jurgentine War is one of the wars that part of the social wars that led up to this. Against the king of Numidia in that sense, right? In the capture of Jugurtha, right? This is that the war that at the end of that transition point of the Republic before the crisis of this is all post. This is all post destruction of Carthage in that sense. And then his general history, fragmented work on the history, which he didn't survive for some reason. I think he doesn't survive in the sense Livy does, because Livy's more prudent politically in that sense. And the things that weren't prudent didn't survive, the later emperors. He was probably more critical of Caesar and what Caesar was, and therefore this didn't survive Christianity in that sense. The Christians didn't like it in that sense. Maybe defended the older Roman tradition. So I'm getting ready to do nights, for my tomorrow, my reading group. Now to the secret thing. In lieu of I'm planning on one of the things I do on a Friday is going to be Friday book club, where I might not do a live show, but I might do a pre-recording. I'll use that, and the book I want to probably first do is I finally got Narvini's book, Prophets of Doom. It came 2 days ago, and I want to do a video about this because, like I did my video of that, people saying, "Why did you write?" I wanted to write a review, but I was having a problem with writing a review, and that I didn't. And I think I might write a joint review. I call this black pilling. I call this book is darker than. In fact, this is the joke about this, where you have the populism is a delusion, so the black is beginning here. So there's the white and the black, what tan, the tan and the black is not white, it's tan, right? And then the black is overcoming, and that the organization of the elite organization, it's elite theory. This is saying that there's always going to be elites, you can't escape it. The populism is never going to really work. And okay, I like this book. I think this is a great book. I think it should be read. This is probably a very good introduction to elite theory. I'm going to praise AA for this, but I have my criticisms of this. I think I've always argued that he is undersaid certain things here on about he misses people. He overstates Schmidt, and I think that's okay. He fails to deal with people like Pareto more than he should. I understand what he did there in that sense. He does Pareto, circulation of elite, iron law of oligarchy. Yeah, that would have been good. Um, um, he likes. He needed to do Weber. He just mix. His failure to do Weber is very important because I think you want to talk about managerial elites. You need to talk about bureaucracy and the rise of leadership, the rise of leaders, and the why you can't escape leaders, and why things like this. Well, he's not. He's so sensitive because he is what he is. I don't want to get in trouble. Given what he is, um, if you know Persians, if you ever met a Persian, you oh no, I even agree with you. Evola, my God. Okay, that's not gonna be my point. Um, uh, Evola is thankfully absent here. I mean, I think he mentions Evola. What is Evola even here in the bibliography? Um, yeah, Evola is rather absent here. Okay, Evola is very rather absent here. So you can see that. I mean, if you want to understand the kind of increasingly black pill of AA, is go read the. I don't have the. I can't afford the paperback. 40 pounds of. I reviewed it. And the evil review company that sent me the Palmgrave only sent me a fucking PDF of this. I have a PDF of the Conditions of Freedom. I reviewed it for a journal for a thing, and they only sent me the PDF because they're not going to send that. So it's a hardback, and I got I got a PDF. Ugh. And I see the paperback version. It was because the hardback was 70 pounds. Oh God, I was like, oh, kill me now. And the paperback is still 40 pounds. It's like, blow my brains out, you know. And you can see the trajectory of the increasingly black pilling and the increasing influence of Yarvin in the three books. Okay, that's you can see this. There's a trajectory in the kind of cynicism and darkness in AA, in Parvini. I think a lot of it tied to how I don't know whether he's still. I don't think he's teaching at a school. I don't think he's no longer teaching. I think he's kind of left. I think there was a thing that he was. He kind of. When it became clear who he was, they went after him academically. And the British. Now he makes online persona. Yes, that's true. He makes more money on the online persona than he ever did as teacher. That is true. I don't. I'm not as famous. I don't. I wish I did, man. I wish I did. I still teach. I say what I believe. I'm not trying to shell people for money. Now, the question is, does he believe? The real question is, do these people see? My problem with a lot of the online right is, to what degree are their opinions based upon profit, making money from that? This is I call it the grifter demand of the. I'm not going to accuse AA of being a grifter. I don't think he's a grifter. I'm not going to say that. I don't really consider him a grifter. I'm not going to call him a grifter in this sense. I will be fair to him. But I can see that he's evolving in this way. That, in other words, the ability to be a scholar. He was a good scholar as an English historian. His Shakespeare stuff, okay, it was weird. It was kind of narrow historicist, kind of critique technical historicist. His last book about Shakespeare was actually pretty good, about the moral compass. I think that's a good thing. He's a good English teacher. I wish to God, he makes his money on his courses he sells, about the trivium and writing and things like this. Wonderful. I don't know about how conservative it is, but this is a God's gift. If he's doing the same thing in a classroom environment that he does in a classroom environment as an English teacher, he's a great teacher for the purposes of learning how to write, okay, how to do things. The trivium thing that he teaches, he presents, he tries to sell. is a godsend. I wish he actually makes a textbook and sells it. I mean, as a writer, this is what I like about him. He summarizes, and he's a good teacher. You can tell he's a good teacher by the way he writes these things. This is very good in terms of what I would call understanding and ability to explain. Both these books are kind of good explaining the people he's talking about in short, it's reachable things. Now, I'll talk about this for a second, and I'm going to do my review about it. Something else. I don't want to spend most of my time today doing this. I'm going to make a video about this. It's going to be my first, maybe next Friday, maybe. It's going to be my first book club. Book club on a Friday book club, yeah. Instead of a talking things, I might video do some. So, because some Fridays I might not want to be here at 6 o'clock to 7 o'clock. Live streams, and I maybe have to make a new day for live stream in that sense. Now I've read it already. I've read it quickly. My problem with it is the circle of history. This needs a lot more work. The individual chapters are perfect for summarizing the various thinkers. But why does he include all these? It's all basically each one of these thinkers that he picks, and he picks them. They're interesting. And I think some of them are very good. Gambito Vico is very important to understand historical construction. In fact, this is a Straussian thing. I think, wink, wink, the man who doesn't like Straussians. Strauss always pointed at the importance of Vico. Carlyle's Rousseau. Carlyle is a second-rate Jean-Jacques Rousseau. Gobineau is important because this is racial constructions, but not race and biological, but race and weird race, okay? And Gobineau's construct of why racial construction. Brooke Adams, I think that's a very interesting argument about this. This is one of those guys I knew about but didn't really know. Spenger, of course, is a post-Nietzschean, and I think he should have dealt with Nietzsche, okay, not just only Spengler, because Spengler is kind of a warped moment. He understands, and therefore this is another thing. The next thing is Pickham's Sokorin is an interesting Russian thing. Tonby, of course, is the liberal historian in this censuration. But Evola, he brings in there then the Egyptian Glub, John Bagot Glub, which again, this is an interesting, again, about empire and things like this. Joseph Tainter and Peter Russian, but exile in America, Peter Turchin. Great. Gobineau is a great writer, but very much influenced by Rousseau again. We have to remember that this is the Rousseau. In fact, Tocqueville, everyone needs to remember that Tocqueville and Gobineau were kind of, Tocqueville, the older Tocqueville looks at Gobineau as kind of like someone who's interesting, but they will disagree. There's overlaps of similarity. And in fact, the correspondence between Tocqueville and Gobineau is wonderful, and people should read it. Tocqueville on the Muslim question is very different. In fact, this is one of the most darkest things in Tocqueville is the first volume 1, chapter 10 about the 3 races in North America. This is where he gets, and you can see the kind of similarities, but also difference between Gobineau and Tocqueville on the understanding of race. They agree, but Gobineau goes too far for Tocqueville in that sense, because he makes claims of superiority that Tocqueville says that doesn't make sense from science point of view. And it falls into certain fallacies from the earlier the biological, the evolutionary writers I think Saylor is kind of right, but Saylor does overstate. I think Saylor is more correct than some people like to say, but I don't think you can argue racial supremacy. I think you can say advantage, something has more advantage. Some groups, because of their racial, ethnic, biological heritage, have advantage over others, but that doesn't mean that they're better in that sense. Yes, Dutton. I don't know. Dutton is a problem for me because I think Dutton is selling it. I'm not sure. I'm not saying he's a fraud, but I think he's kind of selling it. and he sees that this is a way. This is how he funds his. In other words, as the academic, as his choice to doing what he does through academic means has lost. It is theater. He's theater art exactly, in that sense. He likes to show. He's doing a show, and it's profitable, and it allows him to do the science that he does. And there's always that, but then he knows that there's going to be there's going to be a demand to do things that maybe he shouldn't do, like that whole thing about anal taints, that whole weird thing about anuses and the connection between the anus and the vagina in racial groups was, I think in many ways, it was kind of like, oh, he won't do that kind of things. I got to put it, it's kind of like why certain people will say things on this is the danger of reading super chats. Because he won't dare say that. It's kind of a extreme, and therefore you start saying the super chat, and therefore you this is kind of the problem with that people were kind of using super chats to kind of, now okay, great. I understand why sometimes we use because maybe they'll read my post, right? But there is this. But I disagree. I think Ron James Pervert is less interesting. I think Ron James Pervert is kind of, I've never gotten him. And I think I know him. I think there was a meeting at a conference in the early thousands where we had drinks and food over waiting. And he was sympathetic to my plight of exile as an exile over a thing. And he's there and was working with, at Yale. He's getting a doctorate, this Romanian guy getting a doctoral degree there. And he was talking about his dissertation advisor and how much of a cuck he was. And Stephen Smith to me was always disgusting. He was his Jewness. His Jewness was a liberal Jew who played the liberal Jew card to get in and be protected against other things. He was only able to survive a Straussian who survived that by being a liberal and playing a liberal. There is always the liberal Jew who plays the liberal Jew and plays it as a protection, so that now Stephen Smith is in many ways I'm not saying he's dumb, but I'm not saying he's dishonest, but he's a liberal. Okay, he was a liberal Straussian, and that more conservative people were never hired at Yale. Tom Pangle was kind of denied tenure. Kendall bought his tenure out and left. And Kendall was not Straussian, so Yale was always kind of a liberal kind of place. Most want to be behavioralist because of the ties to the government in the 1930s and 40s, up to the CIA in that sense, behavioralist revolution of that stuff. My thing about this is back to Prophets of Doom. They needed Nietzsche. See, his whole thing about history and cycle, the thing about this is that the various people that he picked, they all talk about doom. But basically the thrust of this book is civilizations are collapsing. Why civilization? That's another book. I have another book here. Why civilizations or why states fail. Right? There's a lot of it. So this is the kind of that literature of the new political science that dealing why states fail literature. This is why democracy for realists. What is it? The other ones, why states fail. There's this whole section of that kind of secondary literature that is about that. And this is what he's saying. He's saying why states fail, and he's giving us these authors that he looks at. Now on here he has 9 here, and he has more. He has 11 here. So he does. Some pictures are missing. The pictures are missing is Peter Turchin, which I like Peter Turchin. Peter Turchin is more my kind of behavioral biologist. but it's kind of historical. He's weird. He's biology, but he approaches historically. So his merger of biology and historical. He has his cleonastics approach, which I think he adds on. I don't know why he added that. The other picture here that is not on here is Glub. Yeah, Glub. Brooke Adams is here. And yeah, Glub is here because I think and Tainter's there. Not Tainter. So 3. So 12, 3, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 would be, yeah. No, but 12 would be. So therefore, where is Glub? Glub has to be on here, but Glub isn't on here. So who is on here that is not on the? No, Glub is here. Sorry, blah. Sorry, Glub is this. He's there, so I missed Glub. So the only people that is missing here is, in this sense, Turchin and Tainter, right? Turchin, the last 2. But these guys are different reasons. So therefore, there's not. What is the rationale? Now, of course, his whole point of this is the introduction and conclusion. And this is his famous thing about what's going on. I want to talk about this more than this because, well, if you're saying you don't know about Glub, well, you need to get more viewers, be part of your show on me. Well, I mean, you asked, I think I'll do my video about this. He's mad at me. This guy wouldn't tell him the name of who President Sunday was. Okay. He reached out to me and asked, do I know the real name of President Sunday? And I had to say, I said to him, no, I don't know. No. The question is, do I know? Don't I know? That is a problematic thing. I may know, but I may be under obligation not to tell anyone that. Okay, I may be under a kind of obligation. Well, I understand what he's doing. President Sunday, I think he's still a young guy. He was shocked that I said anything about AA because he read my books. I don't mind doing it. I'm friendly to everyone in that sense. I don't mind doing it. I found it frustrating trying to work with him in the sense that trying to organize, he couldn't organize. He plays games. I don't play video games anymore. My wife won't let me. Sunday is not. See, Sunday's still a young guy. He's starting to go out. He wants to see himself part of the left still, and he's also part about understanding the nature of this whole culture. Like, he wants to get with Walsh, this debate thing. Now, why the fuck does one care about what people like Walsh say? Even someone like Yiannopoulos, I say Yiannopoulos' his first name. It's going to drive me crazy now. Yiannopoulos, to me, Walsh is out of trash, yes, but he's also useless. Why debate him? He's not really knowable. This idea, we have to debate everyone. This idea of debate. No, debate is a silly thing because debate is only done when there's something worthy of debating. It's not this contest of fight. Debate means discussion. There's a great, oh my God, I have to find that Kendall quote. And it's going to drive me crazy now because I know it's a Kendall quote. My buddy who's now, he's a younger guy. He's got a job at Colorado Christian University. A very good guy. He's writing about He's writing about the people who are considered progressives but not, and he's doing a very good job on this, trying to attack he has to kind of work with a West Coast Straussian dissertation advisor at Hillsdale, and he's having trouble. Milo Yiannopoulos. I'm going to say the problem with this is always going to be that You have to understand that people like Milo is entertainment, not serious. Entertainment. Entertainment. That's what he is. He's entertainment. He's not a serious voice. He's just the kind of a game. It's a kind of an immature. Now, he'll try to be a journalist, but I wish he, but his vanity keeps on getting better him of his journalism. I wish to God I can't. His dangerous book, I can't. I couldn't buy it for some reason. It all became. It's me, baby. It's became kind of a giant masturbation. Sitting there, masturbation. The TV Milo would have been, and I think still it would be a great TV show, but he's so self-destructive in that sense. Well, Sticks is again. Sticks. I love Sticks because Sticks is what Sticks is. He's kind of I call this a libertarian, not a libertarian anti-war type, who saw Trump as a kind of saw the anti of reality Trump. He's not a conservative. He was just as he became money became a businessman and making money. He found out that he was a liberal when he was a poor college student. As he started to become a self-employed businessman, he became Republican. Right? He's great at polls, but Rich Barris is better. I should know this. I'm missing probably Rich Barris at time today. I have to go back and watch Rich Barris. Rich Barris is, to me, brilliant on this and better because he runs a polling firm. So Richard Barris's polling firm, Big Data, is great. And you're right, Sticks is probably better on analysis than most poll people. So I wish, and I think he wrote a little pamphlet on polling. We didn't. I think it would be worth. I always joked about with people that I wish Sticks does explain things well. And again, that's what AA does. AA does fantastic. AA is more academic. AA is, I'll go back to AA. I'm sorry, I'm going all over the place. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, but let's go back to the point why I don't like talking about vouch and destiny and this kind of stuff. Because it's grift. Getting in a debate with these guys, why? I actually had to write a PhD. That's a bitch. And had to survive liberals and leftists. What is a great primer on Kendall, on a text on Kendall? There's no good primer. Kendall, you just have to suffer through. Kendall is, there's a couple articles, good articles about Kendall out there. The introduction by Daniel McCarthy is a good thing. There's a level like this. Kendall is a very interesting fellow. The new book by Oren is better. I know someone. He's an older guy, a little older than me, but we're about the same age. David Fish. He's a researcher at Hamilton Institute, Alexander Hamilton Institute in New York, someplace. And he's written a book on he wrote a book on someone else, one of the conservative newspaper guys, Russia. He wrote a book about Russia that was very good, and he was supposed to be doing a Kendall book, but he got hurt. The COVID and things like that. It's frustrated, and then the Olin book came out. The Conservative Affirmation is a very good book by Kendall. You must read it. That's the beginning. That is the book. It is his most accessible work. So get Conservative. The new edition, published by, edited by Daniel McCarthy. Dan McCarthy. Now Dan McCarthy is a nice guy, but again, not academic. This is my gripe about people like I like him. Why doesn't he have a PhD? Oh, because we can't get PhDs. No, he didn't want it. He was a journalist. He's a journalist. And I'm kind of tired of journalists pretending that they're political analysts. They're journalists. I like opinion pieces. Everything's opinion pieces. Okay, you should be right more. How come you're not being a opinion person? Because I'm not an opinion writer. I'm a scientist. I'm doing research. But your research is not really that interesting in that sense. Occasionally I do that stuff. So conservative affirmation is worthwhile. Now I'm going back to my point. Why not address people like Valsh, Destiny, those guys? Because they waste of time. Like I wouldn't even have. I mean, Yiannopoulos. I wish Yiannopoulos. I wish somebody wrote a a history of Gamergate, a book. No, oh, it's everything's online. You have to do it. No, no, fuck anything. The online world is the world that is the book is the goddess preserver of. I'm still books. Books are always going to. Digital stuff is gray, but books are better. Why? Because digital stuff can be tampered with by those who have the power. They'll rewrite your fucking history. They'll rewrite everything. It's hard to rewrite this. You burn it, but it's hard to rewrite this. This is why books are better. Because why? You can't retro. It's harder to. The low tech aspect of this make editing is that the digital age is the age of the death of memory, and memory is the way to preserve humanity and civilization. And that's why I would argue this is why. And I wish to God, Yiannopoulos would have written a definitive history about Gamergate. This is one of the things. Why don't you go? I even tried to convince Matt Timon, who I'm friendly with and I like. But Matt's going to be here during the election coming up, post-election coming November, so I see him more most likely. My point here is that I wanted a Gamergate book because I wanted to teach Gamergate, but teaching Gamergate on internet crap that doesn't say, and I can't find it, you can't locate it all the time. And half the books, like I tried getting the books, some of the self-published books. Oh God, Vox Day is fucking. He's the Vox Day is both the most arrogant, self-conceited. I can never take him serious. I read his book. I got his book about the social justice warrior, right? And I'm like reading it, and I'm crying. I'm crying about it because it's so badly edited. This is one of the reasons why I was upset with something like Bronze Age Pervert, was that it was this, when I read it, it was, oh God. I mean, I have dyslexia, so I know the problem of writing, and I need an editor. I'm sorry, editors help. Oh, but this is more authentic. This is how the online world works. No, you need editors. Game, to me, there's actually very good books about the Tea Party phenomenon. Very good. Matthew Quintante was always a neocon. He's the son-in-law of Bill Kristol. Mario Quintante's history of the Tea Party and its origin, and some other political scientists who did very objective histories of the Tea Party, is there. And I've taught it. So I've taught history of Tea Party about the student. I had students write theses about this. Okay, great. I wish Bronze J. Pervert would talk to me. If he knows me, if he remembers, if I'm the person we met there, he should kind of say, oh, yeah, I remember the poor guy, but I'm not a muscle guy. I'm a fat-ass old guy. I'm a fat-ass old guy who has to use a crutch, not because he's a fat ass, because I almost died a couple of years ago in America. I've always had to, I had a collapse here because I got an infection in my ear. This is 2006. 2007, and I was and I never recovered from it, but it was okay. And then I had, in America in 2017 to go. I almost die. Okay, really almost died. I was really just. I had to tune my mouth. Even though it's dead. Dead Bates. And oh my God! And I came out of it. I was so high. I was paranoid for like 2 days, 3 days. Everyone was out to get me, and they thought, "Oh God, and I recovered. I lived. This is the thing. This is. I've always all of the men in my family died in their 50s, so I'm like, oh my, I'm living past my sell-by date. Okay. Um, I wish someone like if I talked to him, remembered him, and he remembers how, the kind of thing, and he really cared. That would be great if he just said, "Hi, Bates, I know who you are. Yes, we talked, and he's someone people should maybe listen to." Maybe I'm not as interesting as this, but okay, fine, whatever. Now let's go back to uh, oh, my science fiction. I know sci-fi stuff too. My God, I grew up with sci-fi and real hard sci-fi. I'm kind of disappointed by Amazon. I wish Amazon wasn't so woke on the not Amazon, not Apple wasn't so woke on. Even though I think Foundation is decent, even though the wokeness is kind of like a little off-putting towards it, but it's still a little decent. I was about determination and self-determination. So Amazon has been Apple uh, I remember Foundations. I was never Asimov fan, so I was more Jerry Pournelle. So sci-fi, okay, great, I love it. But bonsais, I'm not. I'm not a Nietzsche. I love Nietzsche, but Nietzsche is. I don't have a fetish about going back to paganism. And being the warrior. I'm just, like I said, fat ass, big guy. Okay, I suffered the fate of this. So let's go back. But enough of this stuff. Okay, let me just finish up. I don't want to go over this too much. I don't want to go there. Back to what's wrong here, and I'm not going to spoil this of this. Um, yeah, okay, yeah, the old eye sci-fi stuff. What's he doesn't do is, my God, talking about either cycle history or linear history, right? What is the cycle history that is dominating the alt right today? Does anyone know? Come on, not Nietzsche, not Carlyle. Uh, what is really people like Bannon and even people like the real political activists who are out there, Bannon or people, even though I like the Vola, but not going to go full Vola. Um, People like Vance, JD Vance, real activists. Who is the cycle history guy that they're talking about and they're pointing to? It is Strauss and Howe. Howe and Strauss. Howe, I forget the first name. Howe and okay. How do I do their names? Howe and Strauss. Neil Howe and William Strauss. From what? From the whole idea of their book Generations, which came out. And my God, I remember this. It was, what is it? Let me go look at this. I have to go look at the Wikipedia page. Sorry. Um, it's a history of the United States, but I don't think it's the history of the United States. It's more complicated. It starts out as this. I'm not going to get into. Come on, let's go. But come on. Oh no, it's not going to give me this. I don't want. I just need the bibliography of the books. Why are you giving me this crappy thing? I don't need the whole history of the cycle. I love, and sometimes you want to say, Strauss, okay, what is this? Okay, it's famous. He was a Vietnam guy, historian in that sense. His first book that really hits it, um, Generations, 1991. He and Howe together wrote Generations in 1991, and they both wrote certain books together. They wrote 13 Generation, Generation X, right? Fourth Turning, 1997, Millennial Rising, 2000s, and then Fourth Turning was 1997, but now they have a new one. I think Strauss, is it, how does he, okay, he died. Strauss dies of cancer in 2007. Now, Neil Howe just recently did a book, a relatively new book. It's The Fourth Turning Is Now, right? This is the new book that's out. Um, Um, the graying of the great powers. That's one of the things he did it without of that. And then his famous book on statistics, Long Legs Projected. Strauss Howe, and I remember when it came out, when Generations came out in 1991. I was in America. I was not. I have not yet. I didn't yet get my. I think I was going to go to Northern at this time. It wasn't set. I just. I remember reading it at the library, and I read the library book, and I was like saying, "Oh my God, this is." I maybe read it at the library in NYU maybe, and IU. Strauss Howe is probably the most important book on. It was a very argument about generational history and how there was a pattern. This idea of patterns. It introduced the cycle conception of a pattern based upon a cycle of a dynamic, and that he had a model about this. And I kept on, and then the fourth turning kind of moderates this. He shows a European one, and then he shows the English one that then becomes the American one, right? And then therefore this is the problem. The problem with this is that it's not a universal history because it's all particularized based upon a generation, and it gets once the United States becomes a globalization, then the American one becomes a globalized one in that sense. But there is a difference in that sense, the one of particular versus the one of a general. He doesn't at all touch the cycle theory. Also, progress. You have to have the concept of progress. That's Auguste Comte. Also, actually, I hate to say it, it's also Adam Smith. Adam Smith, in his Wealth of Nations and his lectures on jurisprudence, talks about historical development, the stages of human development, from hunter-gatherer to pastoral to agricultural to commercial society. This stage does this at every level. You get the argument about historical development. This is and once you get historical development, this becomes now the positivist 19th century, Auguste Comte, 1820s, 1840s, 1820s, this idea of Comte's concept of progress. This now, you see this a little bit utilitarians, the British utilitarians idea of progress. This guy's idea of progress in this sense. In that Smith starts the idea, but I don't think Smith argues that this is developmental. He thinks it's developmental. But he doesn't take the historic dimension and saying that he's inevitable and you're not going to go there. There are these arguments. I just have a problem. The commercial society was always, you could argue commercial society was always present. Hunter-gatherers traded, and therefore there was trade and hunt. If commercial means trade and commerce, in other words, it's more about the change of dominant from being a sideshow to the dominant thing. And this is something that is important for some to understand the distinction in German thinking between Gemeinschaft and Gesellschaft. Gemeinschaft is this idea of community. This is, we can say organic, or this is the problematic business. It gets fucked up by Durkheim because Durkheim flips organic to the societal based and mechanical to the earlier things. But you can see this concept of all of a sudden this thing. The question is, are these two systems co-eternal in Durkheim's mechanicistic versus organic, or is Gemeinschaft and Gesellschaft are just two realities that exist always, or is this an epoch? We go from this. This is this question. This forces us to Hegel. Not here. Why no Hegel? Why no Hegel? Hegel's philosophy of history is essential to the idea of epochs in history. But wait a minute. You can't make sense of Spengler without addressing. So, in other words, but the book is not about the cycle. That's why the introduction is not really that useful in that sense. Because he leads us to an idea of cycle, and that leads us to one way. But it's not about cycle. It's about doom. It's about collapse. And what he does is he gives us all of these thinkers of collapse. Shotgun approach. bam, shotgun approach of all these arguments of collapse. But these arguments of collapse disagree with each other about why things collapse. Some of them fundamentally disagree with each other why these things collapse. This doesn't really get addressed by him. Okay. Instead, we get a conclusion, and I mean, people say maybe I should get an editor to clip this out. I think I just have to make the video myself. I should do a video. I'm not good at video techniques. The conclusion is he gets his wonderful points. The 10 most prominent of these list of these things, he gets the list of 10, right? And this is where I would have my disagreement. I made a video about this already, about civilization cannot be we call civilization is non-communicable. And I said the animating spirit. I'm sorry, that is Evola through the spirit stuff. This is hocus pocus mysticism. What percent loser sideshow and what percent containment is the current state of today's GOP? Is another question, yes or no? Hegel for European cycle. No, European is not a cycle. See, Hegel, there's no cycle. There's only this evolutionary moment from the beginning. It's all about the master slave. This goes all the way back to Hegel's introduction chapter on the master slave dialectic and the phenomenology of spirit. And that the philosophy of history is just historicizing it as the epochs. It is this move where no one is free, to one is free, to more are free, to many are free, that most are free, to all are free. No, I know about Hegel didn't articulate. Well, but this is not about that articulation in that sense. I think Hegel's understanding is that he's trying to explain this ontologically. And then he wants to understand this historically in this situation. The greatest doomsayer of this would be Edward Gibbon. Why doesn't AA bring Edward Gibbon's Decline and Fall of Roman Empire? Gibbon is more relevant than why no Gibbon? Why no Gibbon? Because he's not doom. Yes, he is. He talks about doom, but he's not talking about universal doom. So that's the thing. I think this is the mistake here, and I think he does also about this. This is where there is this criticism of Christianity in that. So everyone talks about Gibbon these days. Gibbon is very important to understand multiculturalism and empire. This is why Gibbon is very important. I know people working on Gibbon. I know a lot of scholars working on Gibbon. I just don't have the patience. My God, what's his name? The Pocock, John J.A. Pocock, in the early thousands, wrote a multi-volume series of barbarian. It's called what is Pocock's book called? It's multi-fucking volumes. John Pocock, J.A.G. Pocock. Pocock was one with Quentin Skinner, the big things. The famous book everyone remembers him is the Machiavellian Movement, right? That's that whole thing. But he wrote this wonderful series. It's come on, where is the multi-volume monstrosity? Okay, I'm sorry. Hold on. I'm going to go look at this. Multi-volume. It's called Barbarism and Religion by Cambridge University Press. The first one, 1999. Volume 2, 1999. So volume 1, volume 2. First one, The Enlightenment of Edward Gibbons. Volume 2, The Narratives of Civil Government, 1999. Locke. So Enlightenment, the first of this. The volume 3, the first Decline and Fall, 2003. Volume 4, The Barbarian, Savages, and Empire, 2005. Religion, Volume 5 is Religion, The First Triumph, 2011. And Barbarism, Triumph in the West, 2015. So, an English author, I know he's Australian or New Zealander, very English Cambridge school guy. Why the fuck he's not in here? Gibbon is very important, and that's why I think that. And Pocock's multi-volume thing on religion and barbarism, I think is. It was like I had to buy it. I mean, I when it came out, I bought every volume of that monster. I wish AA would reach out to me and say, "Why don't you talk?" I would come. I'm not his crowd. Okay, I'm not these kind of guys like this. I'm not Endeavor. I mean, Endeavor is an interesting fellow, or maybe some of these guys like the religious guys. I'm not a real. I consider myself a reactionary. Okay, because who I was doing. But back to this problem. If you're going to talk about history, progress and return, this is actually Leo Strauss's famous essay, Progress and Return. The whole problem of what is the purpose? Is this progress? Is return? Are we in Devon historicism? Yeah, okay. Corditz is sometimes he writes literature, so he maybe goes with what appeals from artistic. Yeah, that's true, the artistic, but okay, I love literature too. I love poetry and things. I love this, but there's a difference. The poetic is symbolic, and symbolism is about the real phenomena. Okay, it's spirituality. This is the problem with atheism. Talk about spirit. People who are fundamentally atheists, who don't believe in there's a real God or this thing, talk about spirits, then they go crazy. What is the soul? Okay, this is Platonic conception of the soul, the spirit, right? Aristotle is more kind of a biological guy. That's why I preferred Aristotle. Aristotle grounded it in the real in that sense. There's a soul, but this is a biological structure. This is a nature of this thing. Is there eternality of the soul? That is a different question. Is the question of our transcendent character of this? This is a theological question that is not bound within the realm of science. This is a question of faith, belief. That's why I kind of averse in this. This is why I got around astrology is better. It's this tension between the science world of knowable versus the realm of belief. This is why I've always liked this is why William James is such a great guy, because discussion. This is why the pragmatists, even though the later pragmatists are completely crazy, that's why I can never stand Dewey. Dewey was nothing compared to the earlier guys like William James or even Pierce. Pierce is a mathematical genius, autistic as hell, mathematical genius. So I'm at my hour and a half things. I wish, maybe someone who knows AA say, hey, Cliff, why don't you just go to AA thing? You know, we're 1 hour time zone difference. I would love to do this. He wants to beat me up. But I think he'll never forgive me for not doxing President Sunday, who I think was involved in apparently doxing. But I have never hidden a persona. I have been out in the real world and therefore executed. Why do you think I'm teaching in Poland and not in the United States? My wife gets mad at me and says, "Don't you say too much? You may be the next PO government comes in power. You lose your job. They're gonna lose my job. They're gonna keep me." I survived lesbians and homosexuals. Come on, I have survival skills. I don't lie and do this. I just tell them, and they say, "Listen." I had a joke with that on a colleague. I said, "Don't you know? Your position is illogical. You take your position. You're going to lead to you slit your own throats." Drunken conversation was great. about, don't you know your position? Given how few you are, pushing the way you do is going to only lead you guys to be wiped out. I don't care personally. I don't care who you plug up the butt. What are you doing? I don't care. Uh, 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 uh. Well, yeah, I'm not going to say. I'm not going to say. I'm not going to. I'm pleading the Fifth Amendment on that question. Uh, um, the problem here is I don't care what you do in your private life. The problem is not about tolerance. There's a difference between what tolerance is versus acceptance. Once you demand people to accept what you do, that's the same thing with Jordan Peterson. It wasn't the problem of he doesn't care people transgender. It's that you're forcing me to say what you're doing is normal and acceptable. No, that's totalitarian. That's tyranny, and that's going to get. And particularly, it's very stupid for very few people to. All of a sudden, the weak should never use violence. The weak will always get slaughtered. That's the great lesson. I don't want to say anything more. I'm over 20 minutes. I'm over my time. I'm going to stop here. If you have any comments or questions, please put them in the research things. Please post questions and the real discussion after the thing when it goes as we go and post, because the chat doesn't seem to stay. I don't know what happens. I can't find the chat. I don't know if it's on the web or not. I thought I saved the chat, but apparently it doesn't save. Or maybe people do this. If you really want to have comments or questions on this, put it in the questions and comments thing in the online on the web page when it's on YouTube. Then I would appreciate that. We got 4 today. Hey, 4! Yay! I'm going to stop now. Guys, have a good weekend. And I'll be honest with you, probably next Friday I will make a video about this. I'll post it. It'll be Friday Book Club with Cliff Bates present Friday Book Club this week with Parvini's. I'll talk about this. I'll do a video, I think, next week, because I'll give me a chance to not do something. I won't be here. So, and then the end of the month, I'll do my start of the month one. Yay! So therefore, that's it. Take care. Have a good life. Again, Monday and Wednesdays, we started Rousseau. We did Rousseau for Mondays and Wednesdays. Rousseau has begun the new post. So you should be doing that. And Schmidt, which is parliamentarism. I've organized and set up my next Schmidt stuff. I probably will either do dictatorship or constitutional theory. I think I'll do dictatorship. I'm going to be using, both books are within EPUB, so please forgive me if I'm using EPUBs versus the PDF. I know the PDF people like it and don't like it, but EPUBs, I have to do what I can do. I don't want to break the law, so I only use these kind of things that I can get away with. Otherwise, I buy, Google Book stuff. And if something's not in Google Books, maybe I can upload a PDF. I have something. Wink, wink, I'm doing now. But the rule is no. So that's it. Take care. I don't want to let you guys go, but I got to let you go. Have a good weekend. See you around. Again, bye-bye. Oh, no, not yet. I forgot. Like it. Like it if you haven't liked it. Like it. Okay. I was going to say, I forgot my spiel. Like it, hit the like button. Encourage others to subscribe, please. I need the subscription. We're at 330 now. I'd like to grow some more. I'd like to get to that evil monetization money, because I like to make the grift as well, man. I like to be kind of a grifter. I don't understand why these guys are grifting and me not, but I'm not as popular and well known. Second thing is, if you didn't like it, don't like it. Say, I hate it. Say why in the comments if you read this. Saying, I don't like you because you're not woke enough, or you're not right enough. Bye-bye. The other thing is, see my links in social media below. Link it. My academic social media is linked below. You can contribute by Patreon or Subscribe Star. Your choice. If you want to help me do what I'm doing, it's necessary. It's kind of helpful because life is getting expensive. And that's it. Okay. I did my spiel. I did my thing. Take care. Have a great weekend. Get your margarita, in honors of the passing of uh, Jimmy Buffett, and enjoy your margaritas this summer. And that U.S. had their end of summer with on last week with Labor Day, but still, it's still you can say goodbye. Take care and have a good weekend. Ta ta.